Welcome everybody back. Of course, we just got through talking to Oilers and Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders, well, former Oilers and Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders. But I figured we'd make a stop in Jacksonville next, which has a few things going on in camp. And there's no one else better to give that information to us than Jaguars beat writer for the Florida Times Union, John Reid. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Mike. I mean, as you said, there's been interested in Jacksonville over the last, I'd say, last 10 days. So there's another day at training camp.
I hear you there. Well, let's go ahead and get into it since
Uh,
the news that threw a little people off in the NFL world. 2020 first round draft pick CJ Henderson, of course, has been mentioned as potentially being available. I saw that out there.
yeah.
Can you tell us what even led up to this? I mean, it seemingly blindsided a lot of people that aren't familiar.
Well, it's availability. Urban. I mean, let's just go back to Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is a guy coming in. You know, he want all the players to buy in. He's giving them like this. Got new facility like where they work out. They don't have to leave town. He's got all these different types of enhancements. And Urban is going to push. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. I mean, he's. You can't walk on the when you come out to the practice field. You can't walk on the field immediately. You have to run to your area, and you know, for a franchise that's 1-15, I mean, you can understand that a little bit. But CJ, first of all, he missed all of the off-season program. He had the labrum surgery, so he missed that. He comes back to reporting day for training camp, and he comes up with the a positive COVID test. I mean, where he was on the reserve COVID-19 list. So he missed the first 8 days of training camp before he was cleared off that COVID list. And I think this is what kind of burned the bridges. So he comes back, he comes back. Um, it just looked at odd that, Urban, for the first time he came back off that list, he was working with the trainer, but it's just like the trainer was shadowing him on the field. Like it was like, he's standing there watching them stretch. He's he's running with them on the field. He's far away from the other players, and it just was something that, over a period of time. I know, Urban's situation is different than what the Marone regime was, but we haven't seen where the trainer just basically shadowing a guy. And then we look, then Urban put the stationary bike on the edge of the field, and like it was probably about 5 feet from his teammates, and he's standing like right near the goalpost. So it's like, what in the world is this? It seemed like you're putting a grown man in timeout. That's what it looked like. It looked odd. And then that that day, the next day, it was 2 days, and then the Saturday, out of nowhere, they said that he's not going to participate in the scrimmage this past Saturday because of a personal day. So we asked Urban these questions like, "What's going on? He's missed all the time already. He's missed even though there was basically a non-contact scrimmage, still, he missed valuable time." So we asked Urban after that scrimmage, and and the direct question to Urban was, do you feel is he going to be able to, come back from this and get back into the flow of being a contributor, even move forward and getting back into just getting back into? Is he going to have enough time to get himself prepared between now and the opener? And Urban just said point blank, I don't know. I don't know. And a week before that, Urban said, like, every time that we expect him to basically what he said, every time we expect him to be here, something else happens. You can't blame him on the labrum surgery. But then you come for the camp, you got the COVID situation. He comes off the COVID. He's got 3 days of acclimation period. He comes off the acclimation period, and then it's a personal reason that he's not at the practice. So that kind of stirred up the speculation that, look, this guy don't seem like he want to be here. He doesn't seem like he's engaged. He doesn't seem like, it's just body language on the field. He's only been this is, believe it or not, training camp started on July the 28th. Today was only this is the second back-to-back day that he participated as a full participant in training camp.
Wow.
And it just, when we look at, you can look at a guy and see, is he into it? It's hot, it's sweltering heat out there. Meyer got these guys, like, it's not a physical camp, but it's a taxing camp. There's no idle moments. They move from station to station. They got a guy right now, since I've been covering this team, they got a guy go on the public announce. They got loudspeakers on the field. And when they have pass rush drills, blocking drills, or any of those one-on-one individual drills, he calling out winners and losers on the loudspeaker. Huh. So when you see this guy, he's out there. I watched him today. They were going through a little 7-on-7, a little 11-on-11. So I'm watching his mannerisms in 11-on-11. He's not talking to any teammates. At one time he looked like he was out of position, but he didn't look like he was going all out. He didn't seem like he was going full. They were going full speed. He wasn't going full speed. And it just seems like he's not engaged. I don't know if there's a situation going on with his household, with his family, but he don't seem like, to me, my personal opinion, he don't seem like he want to be in Jacksonville. I don't know if you can look at him and say, well, it don't look like he's buying into this Urban Meyer. You guys got to do this way, run to this station. No idle moments on the practice field. And it just seems to me that he's not. You can't hide it. It just seems like he's not engaged, doesn't want to be engaged, and it just seems like there's something else beneath the surface that we don't know what it is. But it just seems like he's not fully into it, and it's been like that for the 4 practices that he's been at since July the 28th.
Wow, doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. So, if I'm reading between the lines of everything, it doesn't sound like he's going to be in Jacksonville too much longer.
No, and another thing, Mike, when do you know a head coach and his assistant head coach knock on the door of a player to go speak to him? That came up yesterday where Charlie Strong, the assistant head coach, on the record publicly said that this past week they went to his place, Henderson's place. They said to speak to him, but the rumor was they went there to try to convince him to come back to the facility.
Wow.
Now, even if that's not true or what, but when have you heard of an NFL football coach got to knock on the door of a player to have a conversation with him? It usually, hey, we need to speak to you. Come to the facility right now, or something like that. And another thing, Mike, this kid is talented. He had a bad rookie season. He had a great first game last year, and then he just, I remember the Miami game where basically he forgot to touch down a player after the player caught the ball. He didn't touch him down, and the guy got an extra 8 yards because of that mistake. And it just, even last year, he's not a talkative person. And it also goes back to the Jaguars and Dave Caldwell that I think a mistake in this whole situation. When you draft a guy 9th overall, you have to do your homework. And, the Jaguars have a problem with University of Florida players. None of them have panned out, basically. They got one right now, Taven Bryan, who's, come on. He haven't practiced since day one, and he's probably so far behind. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't make the 53 man roster. But you have to do your homework. CJ, quiet guy, but I think there's more to this story. And I don't think that Dave Caldwell, the former GM, they probably looked at CJ's talent. They had a need at cornerback, but I don't think they explored the whole situation with him from a mental standpoint, from what's going on in his background, to just doing their due diligence to invest and make sure we got this pick. When you're the Jaguars and you have a history of having first round picks, you had a history of losing records, you have to do everything right to make sure when you get a third overall pick, ninth overall pick, or these first round picks, you have to make sure that they are a lock. I don't think they did that with CJ. I mean, it's another mistake from management that has nothing to do with Urban Meyer and Trent Baalke, but you can't not make mistakes when you got a ninth overall pick, and basically right now he's running third team. We got an opening preseason game. We're a month away from the season opener. You got a guy that you pencil in January being a starter, and right now he's running third team for you. So that tells you all you need to know. And I would not be shocked if he is traded. I feel Charlie Strong is in a situation that he sees a kid that needs help, and he's going to do what he can to help him. Urban Meyer is a guy that says, "Hey, we are not in a rebuilding situation. We need to win now. I want players on my roster who's taking up roster spots. If they can't help me win, I basically ain't got a use for them. And when you're talking about a ninth overall pick, first round pick, in his second year, and he obviously got talent, and he's not he's not helping the situation, and basically he's been a distraction, basically. Urban Meyer is a football coach, man. And I think that engagement that Charlie Strong trying to do right now, I think right now this situation is right now. They're going to see how this goes. They're going to see if he continues to show up to practice, does he continues to work, like he's supposed to, and they don't have no more personal days where they don't know where he's at or something unsuspecting come up. If one of those things happen, they're gonna. I wouldn't even be shocked if they'd trade him for a third or fourth round pick, just to move along, just cut their losses and move forward.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot not to get for somebody that was drafted so high. But hey, it is what it is. Now, of course, CJ Henderson wasn't the guy that everybody thought that we'd be talking about. Right. The guy that some thought we might be talking about is Tim Tebow. Now, plenty of people want to know. Some really don't care. But hey, I'm going to ask. How is he doing in camp so far?
Well, Mike, I tell you this. There was a different Tebow when the Jaguars had that policy of no press coverage, the defensive back, linebackers back off. They were in helmets and shorts, and he looked pretty good. He caught every pass. He looked good. He got some separation and those kind of things. Now, he's been a little quiet. He hadn't made a lot of. He hadn't made a lot of splash plays. Plays that make him stand out. In the scrimmage Saturday, toward the end, he caught a pass across over the middle from Garner Minshew, and he got separation from the safety. And since Saturday, that basically been his highlight. I mean, I don't know. I think he's having problems with the route running. I think he's having problems getting separation. I think he's having problems. The one thing that Urban Meyer said about 10 days ago, that when he's catching it, he's catching passes with his body. He's not extending his hands to make the catch. And I think he's making himself more so easier to cover from those mistakes. I mean, he's learning as he go, but it to me it looks like the Tyler Davises, Manhurst, James O'Shaughnessy, when they're on the field for 11 on 11, they're making plays. You know, they're catching, they're getting separation, they're getting open. I think Tebow right now is just having difficulty getting space, getting open space. And if he's not in a spot to get open, they're not forcing throws. You know, it's just like he's getting these reps, but he's not getting no action, you know, so to speak. And I just think he's learning as he go along. And when this, you know, the thing about right now, when you're in this stage of training camp, you know, guys gonna assert themselves at this point. There's gonna be a lot of separation going in these preseason games, and you start that in practice, you know. And to me, he's not separating. He's like stagnant. He's right where he's at. He's not embarrassing himself. He looks like a tight end, but he's not getting separation from those linebackers. And you know, the Jaguars got quick linebackers. They can cover underneath routes pretty well. And he's having problems just getting the open spaces and maybe even getting enough confidence for a guy like Trevor Lawrence to even throw it to him, you know, because of not getting that separation. But the tight ends are getting. They had a whole bunch. They had red zone work today. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 TDs. 2 of them went to the tight ends. You know, so the tight ends are being involved in the offense. But it's just that Tebow is not making those catches that he made a couple of weeks ago.
Gotcha. So so basically, it's not looking good for him to make the squad right now.
I think I said this earlier. I think he's an ideal practice squad player. You know, I think the question is going to be to him: is this worth it for a guy like him to accept that as a practice squad player? Because first he got to get cut to get on the practice squad. So, I guess the one thing you can say about being on the practice squad, because the rules are different since last season, that they do bring up 2 players from that practice squad each game. But from what I'm seeing, at best right now, he's 4th string, and he may not even be 4th string. You know, from what I'm seeing. So,
gotcha.
You know, it's just guys outperforming. I mean, that's what it is right now in training camp. These guys. You know, when you look at the Ben Eversons and the Tyler Davis and the Luke Farrell, the rookies, I mean, those guys know what's at stake. They know that, hey, I got to make catches. I got to stand out. And if I don't stand out, a guy like Tim Tebow, can move ahead of me, and my fall is a lot harder fall for me than a Tim Tebow who's already had his shot, you know. And those guys are playing with urgency, man. I've seen. I mean, I didn't see much of anything out of Tyler Davis, second-year player doing OTAs in the first part of the veterans, the mini camp in June. But now he's playing with urgency. He's playing like, hey, my job and my whole football career depends on me getting open and making catches, and that's been a difference.
Yeah, I mean. That's what we have. All right. Speaking of, you spoke of Trevor Lawrence. How's he looking so far in camp so far?
Well, let me say this, man. I'm still surprised that the Jaguars just don't come out and say Trevor is our number 1 player, even if he just played 1 series Saturday. But it's like we haven't decided on our quarterback rotation, which was said by Darrell Bevel today for the game Saturday. They still alternating reps with the first team offense between Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence. And it's to be honest, Mike, it's there's no competition. There's no way. There's no quarter. They got 4 quarterbacks in camp. None of them can make the throws or have made the throws that Trevor Lawrence has made. I mean, you go back to that scrimmage. Basically, it was a passing show, and he rolls out to his left, throws across his body, and throws across field, spot on to Treadwell, the receiver, and tight window throws. He made a throw today where he looked like the ball had eyes on it. It's just like he threw a low sailing ball that went. It looked like it was going behind James O'Shaughnessy. James O'Shaughnessy comes back around. He would look like he was going left. He comes right. There's no. I mean, you could have been Mel Blunt. Mel Blunt ain't gonna intercept that pass. You know, he just threw it in a perfect spot, low. It was low, but it was thrown low, so it wouldn't get tipped or get intercepted. And man, sometimes this guy look like he's throwing, and he's got like he got wings on the ball to tell him where he's spotting the ball like it's got wings and eyes on it, man. And I haven't seen anything like that here in Jacksonville from the from the quarterbacks since 2017 here, obviously. But to me, there's no question, man. Now, either they want to just say, you know, hey, he's the number one overall pick. He's got to earn everything that he gets here. I understand that, but I think this sharing the reps and Minshew still got a shot and all that. I think it done reached the point now, man, to say, come on. there's a gap between Garner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence, and it's about as wide as from the East Coast to the West Coast. That's about how wide that gap is, man. Garner can't make the throws this kid can make. I mean, it's just bottom line. I mean, there's no debate. There's no question. If you put a 600 people in the room and had those guys to throw after each other, it wouldn't be a debate. Who is the better thrower? Who got more command of their throws? And who can just make every throw, and that's Trevor Lawrence. So,
gotcha. Now, you did speak about the energy and things like that, like the announcer and stuff like that. So, you can probably say that the Urban Meyer effect is definitely being felt already.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a college practice. I mean, you know, they have the music. They had the music last year, you know. But first of all, let's go. Urban Meyer comes out on the field probably about 25 minutes before the players do. He's walking around. He's sipping on a coffee. I mean, the guy got energy, man. he's talking to assistants, and when the players come out, you know, they just signed a wide receiver last week. And I guess he didn't know what the rules were. So he's come. His name is Taven Jones. He come try. I mean, he wasn't trying. He was walking. He was walking onto the field. And I specifically heard Urban like, "Hey, we don't walk here. We don't walk on the field here." But you know what I'm most surprised with is that how the players have bought in to his regimented style. I mean, he get in the huddle, he's cussing, he's telling them we've done this for you and we've done this. You know, we improved our you know, all the performance, all that kind of stuff, you know. And you guys out here basically, you know, ain't showing anything that you wanted, like, you know. And it's like, man, boy. I'm like, I'm listening, like, man, this guy sound like my old high school coach or something, you know. It's like these grown men out here, but he's got a different style, man. Since I've been covering the NFL, I have never heard, first of all, of a guy announcing every drill on the loudspeakers. I've never heard of a guy when they got pass rush drills, he's announcing who the winner is. I have never seen a coach get in like in the trenches. Urban has been in. He got knocked down last week on a pass rush play, but he's like right next to the defensive lineman. He's got his hands on his knees. He's bent down, and he's like 2 inches from them. And he said, "You got to get this guy. You got." I mean, it's like. I mean, this guy's almost like a reincarnation of Lombardi of the '60s or something, man. And you would think, like, I can remember the 217 team doing training camp. I can remember those guys specifically. You could overhear them complaining, like, dang, they saying, dang, like, how many more days this man gonna have us in full pads? I mean, we done worked like 5 days in a row in full pads. And the Jalen's and them complaining. These guys out here, you ask them, say, well, how's training camp? And the guys like saying, well, they're saying all the right things. Like, hey, we won in 15. It could be 115 degrees. We ain't got no reason to complain. We were bad last year and that stuff. So whatever, I think, I say this about Urban. Urban is a motivational genius. He can find every trick in the book to motivate you. Today, guess who shows up today? We look on the field, there's Jimmy Johnson on the sideline. Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson addresses the team before they start drills. They were further off from where the media was on the practice field, but he probably spoke for about 10 minutes. And when it broke up, those guys yelling and cheering, and I don't know what he said, but they're yelling and cheering, and he stayed for the whole practice. And it was probably about 96 out there, and he was out there the whole practice, and he went inside the facility after practice. So it's a completely different culture, man. I don't know what inside the building, but on the outside of the building, it's very professional. It's very stringent. There's not a whole lot of contact work going on. They don't be in pads 5 days out of the week, but they get a lot done for the time that they're out on the field, which is it's a big change from what we saw a year ago. There's no idle time between they go from one station to the next, and it just bam, bam, bam. That's how practice go. Bam, 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 bam. They go to this, to this, to this, to this, and then they go back to that. Sometimes Urban don't even run the clock, so he adds some extra work in there.
Oh my goodness! It sounds like definitely an entertaining time watching all this.
Yeah, it's entertaining, man. This guy, I tell you, boy, he's I really didn't know Urban Meyer. I mean, I just knew from what I saw at Ohio State, and you look at a guy that can recruit. You look at a guy that always seemed to have good players, speed, and talent. But when you see him out on the field, I mean, there's a session that they have. It's basically like a stretching where the whole team is at the end of the practice field in the end zone, and it's probably about 18 lines of players, 18 rows of players. So they stretching and all that kind of stuff. But during this period, every assistant coach goes up, tap the player on the show. All right, man, I'm expecting a big day from you. How things go? Come on, man, we need you today. And he's like, every one of his assistant coaches, he's there. He's having conversations with guys. He go for one guy, he's standing right face to face with players. He's telling them, this is what we need from you today. You can see him when before DJ Chark got hurt. Every morning when DJ Chark come out on the practice field, Urban is teaching him how to get off press coverage. I mean, he's out there pushing them, he's trying to move away. He's telling them how to check the hands, move his hands off the press, and so he can get open. And it just seems like he's got a book this thick of every player. He emphasized every player's weakness or whatever. He's chatting with. The guy moves from the offensive line to the defensive line to the secondary to the quarterback, all in about 2 seconds.
Wow. I'm just imagining that. I'm like, to me, with a guy, this past talking about the health issues and things like that, you would think he might kind of cool it a little bit, but he's just not that guy. So, but moving on, I do have, let's see, I have a few other questions for you. Just want to kind of do a little rapid fire. Besides Trevor Lawrence, who's been the most impressive rookie you've seen so far?
Well, Travis Etienne is good, man. I think he got a little problem right now with his, he's having a problem dropping some of the screen passes, but there's no mistake about his talent, man, whatsoever. I've seen him on plays the last couple of days where they run like basically a toss sweep, and he get around the edge so quick that the linebackers have, and I'm talking about Miles Jack. Miles Jack has an angle on him. He still can't get to him.
Wow. That's
I just think this kid is a special talent. And all that stuff that you saw at Clemson and all his rushing totals, I just think he's a legitimate, talented running back. And I think that he's going to be a big addition for them if they utilize him right. And the other, I like, some people might think, well, man, all this hype about this Walker Little, it's like, well, what, he didn't really play much at Stanford. He didn't play at all last season. But I tell you what, man, for a 6'7", 325, he may have the quickest feet of all their offensive linemen. Those matchups that he's been going up against Caleb on Chason, it's like he can recover. Chason can do a spin move and it basically beat him. But he's got enough quickness with his feet that he can get in recovery time and still have enough to stay in front of him and keep him, just like stand him up. And I'll be honest, Cam, we talked to Cam Robinson today, and one of the reporters asked Cam, like, but what's your relationship with Walker Little? And Cam, it's good. And I think the reporter asked him something else, and he just kind of repeated what he said. But, hey, man.
He's worried, it sounds like.
He's worried. Jawan Taylor is worried. They're working the kid at both left and the right side. So they make him into a swing tackle. And he's legitimate, man. Just his technique, foot technique on getting around the edge and using his lateral quickness, his foot movement. To me, he's ahead of Cam with his with that technique, with his foot technique, and getting off, getting his back pedal and and having a technique to turn his body if a guy swing wide coming off the edge. To me, he's always in position, And I just think it's going to be hard to not have him on the field in some capacity. Another guy I like so far, he's getting a lot more action now, where he's basically the outside cornerback, is Tyson Campbell. Tyson Campbell. CJ, even if CJ get it together, he might have a hard time overtaking Tyson Campbell for the outside cornerback spot, man. He's big, he's tall, he's got length, and he's got recovery speed, and it's starting to show what he can bring to the table, particularly at that outside cornerback spot, And he's looked good over the last 4 days. Had a good scrimmage Saturday, and he's getting a lot of reps. His reps has increased tremendously over the last 3 days.
Gotcha. So, man, hey, wow. Definitely gave us a lot of information going on at the Jacksonville Jaguars camp. I want to thank you again for coming on. Tell the people where they can find you on the social media streets and anything else you have coming on.
No problem at all. On Twitter, I can be seen on John Reid 60 at John Reid 64. That's my Twitter handle. And all Jaguar stories is on Jacksonville.com.
Hey, well, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on, and definitely gave us a lot of information that a lot of people probably wouldn't know unless they were there. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you, Mike.